Here's your podcast script. For America's 250th birthday, 16 opinion writers at the New York Times were asked a simple but powerful question: when has this country been at its absolute best? The piece is titled "For America's 250th, 16 opinion writers on the country at its best," and it opens with a reminder that America has never been a finished project. Since the Declaration of Independence was sent to King George 250 years ago, the nation has been, in the writer's words, a restless improvisation reshaped again and again by immigration, war, and economic and cultural upheaval. So what did 16 sharp minds reach for when they went looking for the highlight reel? Tracy McMillan Cottom pointed to libraries, not the invention of them, which goes back to the Assyrians, but the establishment of the Peterborough Town Library in New Hampshire in 1833, the first public lending library continuously funded by public money. A small thing, maybe. But the idea that knowledge should be free to anyone who walks through the door? That's a distinctly American bet on the public good. Nicholas Kristof offered something more personal. He noted that Jeff Bezos may own a 417-foot yacht, multiple private jets, and mansions, but Kristof has a couple of summer retreats that Bezos could never buy. He didn't say what they are, but the point lands: there are things this country offers that money simply cannot purchase. Michelle Goldberg went back to 1788, to a letter George Washington wrote before he even became president. He was welcoming a radical Dutch Mennonite minister to the United States, and he wrote that he had always hoped this land might become a safe and agreeable asylum to the virtuous and persecuted part of mankind, to whatever nation they might belong. Washington's own words, framing America as a refuge, before the presidency, before the Bill of Rights. David French pointed to the founding documents themselves, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, as the clearest window into the country's highest ideals. Ross Douthat found inspiration in sports, of all places, noting that in the span of a single human lifetime, Americans invented not one but three extraordinary sports. He called it the clearest evidence of the country's creative spark. And Carlos Lozada, who described visiting the Grand Canyon, ferrying to the Statue of Liberty, and surviving the 4th of July crowds on the National Mall, said none of those experiences stirred his affection for America as much as the day, nearly 12 years ago, he attended a U.S. naturalization ceremony. Not a monument. Not a landmark. A room full of people choosing to become American. Then there's Maureen Dowd, who reached for something quieter. Growing up, when anyone broke a glass in her house, her mother would carefully wrap the shards before putting them out for the trash collectors. "I don't want them to cut their hands," she would say. The idea was simple: if you make a mess, you make sure it doesn't hurt someone else. Dowd held that up as a model, not just for a household, but for a country. What ties these 16 nominations together is that none of them are about power or dominance. They're about libraries, letters, ceremonies, and wrapped up broken glass. They're about the country at its most deliberate and most humane. As America marks 250 years, the Times asked its writers not to celebrate blindly, but to find the moments worth carrying forward, and it turns out there are more of them than you might expect. That's the story. Wherever you're listening from, thanks for being here. Runtime estimate *3.5 minutes at a moderate speaking pace.